Everybody? Thank you guys for tuning into the Superhuman Garden YouTube channel. So today we're going to be talking about grow zones. All right, a lot of you asked me about grow zones, so this is going to be an educational video on the basics of grow zones, and we'll also talk about why they are important. Okay, now on the screen you can see a map. Okay, and the map has different colorways showing you each grow zone. So, for example, I'm in grow zone 5, all right? So, everything in blue here represents the grow zone that I'm in. So, this grow zone typically is going to be regions covering Indiana, some parts of Ohio, it looks like Iowa, and then coming across to the plains. Okay, now if you look here, this -20 to -10 is going to be the range of the coldest temperatures that can hit during the winter. Okay, now this is important to know because, for example, collards and kale can withstand these temperatures with or without mulch. Okay, now if you mulch your plants, your brassicas, you have a higher chance of your plant surviving through the winter. And then what will happen is when spring comes, those plants more than likely are going to go to seed. And what that means is your plant is going to produce pods after they're pollinated by insects, and those pods are going to contain seeds that you can replant for the next season. Okay. Now, when I first started gardening, I was in grow zone 7. So, as you can see, there's about a 20-degree difference in range from the coldest temperatures of where I actually started to grow versus where I am now. But I will say that I've noticed that with certain things like spinach, they grow a lot better in the grow zone I'm in now versus the grow zone that I started to grow in. Okay, so again, if you're in grow zone 9, let's say, you know that temperatures are going to range from 20 to 30 as a low at night uh, during your seasons, okay, and your winter seasons. I'm sorry. So that's important to know. So if you're in grow zone 9 and 10, your brassicas are probably going to thrive a lot more. Let's say December through February. So if you're growing broccoli, cauliflower, kale, collards, so forth and so on, Brussels sprouts, you're really going to be thriving, let's say December through February, where others like myself in grow zone 4 and 5 and maybe even 6, our brassicas are going to be in dormant status, meaning the plant is still going to be alive, the roots are going to be fine, but they're probably not going to grow, and their growth is going to remain stagnant until it warms up a bit. Okay, now important thing for you to do as you're starting your journey as a beginner is you want to go to Google or whatever search engine you use, and you want to type in grow zone, whatever your zone is, if you're in 7, 8, or 9, and then you're going to do planting calendar. And if I click here, it's going to show me everything that I can grow, um, and when to start. So, for example, if I'm in grow zone 5, you can see in blue here it says this is when you should start your seeds indoors. So, if I want to grow broccoli, I want to get my seeds planted no later than March. Okay, and then as you can see, it shows you here in pink. You're gonna transplant those seedlings maybe around April to May, depending on your frost date. Okay, and we'll go into that later as well. But broccoli can take some frost, so if you're in grow zone 5, for example, and you get that broccoli out there, let's say in April, it's gonna be fine. Okay. Now, cabbage is a little bit different, but for me, I have more experience, so I know that in this grow zone, I can get my cabbages, planted indoors in January, and I can get them out in February. I know this because I know what I'm doing. But if you're a beginner, you want to get your cabbages planted indoors no later than April, because there's going to be a longer growing season for cabbage versus your broccolis or versus your collards. So again, if I'm a beginner, I'm gonna get my seeds planted no later than April, and then I can slowly start to get them out there, June-ish or July. But for me, I know that I'll say June, July, August, the pest pressure is at its highest. So I've come up with a way to maneuver around the different pests that are going to disrupt the crops that I have. So for me, through my experience, I kind of push the calendar a little bit further up, and I get my cabbage uh, planted in January, and then in late February, mid to late February, I get my cabbages out in the ground because I know they'll survive the frost, and I know that my pest pressure is not going to be high at the time of maturity of my plant. Okay, so that's something you can consider. Now, let's say I'm in grow zone. Let's say I'm in grow zone 9. Okay, so we'll find a grow zone 9 calendar. Okay, and we're gonna scroll down. And grow zone 9 is a little bit more lenient than grow zone 5. So you can see you can get your seed started indoors January for your lettuce, and then by early March you're gonna have some nice lettuce. Onion, you get that going in January, and then by May, because onions have a longer grow time, so typically about 100 days for your onions that are gonna have nice bulb sizes, right? Now, if you're talking green onion or bunching onion, you're going to be looking at about a 45 to 60 day maturity on the smaller onions, okay? Now, this is something you really need to know. When you're growing your spinach, and let's say you're in this grow zone 9, right? You're going to have a very small window, more than likely, for spinach. And you want to get your spinach seeds out there at the coldest time if you're in grow zone 9, because it's not going to be cold for long. So you want to get your spinach seeds out there, January, and then you give it enough time to mature. And really, you want to start picking those as soon as probably February, all right? Because the temperature could change rapidly, and they can quickly go to seed if you are in grow zone 9. So you want to get that spinach in the coolest part of your garden as possible. That way your plants won't bolt. And what I mean bolt is your plant is going to go start flowering, and then it's going to go to seed and produce those pods we talked about earlier. So you want to make sure you really are on top of the spinach if you're going to be growing it in grow zone 9. Okay, now one of the plants you can grow pretty much year round, almost everywhere, are peas, and that just depends on where you're going to be planting them. So if you're in grow zone 9, again, I will put my peas in shade, okay? That way there will be no disruption. But if you're in the grow zone like I am, I'm in Grow Zone 5. I can get those peas out there in February, and then by April, I'll have some nice pods of peas, and then I can repeat growing those peas, let's say in October, September, October, and get some nice peas, okay? Now, what we're going to talk about next is knowing in these charts here will show you when exactly to plant what, but another piece that you need to know about this, and it's just for educational purposes only, and it'll tie into the charts that we've been looking at. So what I'm going to do is type in Grow Zone 5 frost dates. Okay, and you can do this for any whatever grow zone you're in. Okay, so as you can see here, it says it has a last frost date of May 15th and a first frost date of October 15th. So that means that if I were growing tomatoes, right, I probably would get my tomato seedlings out after May 15th. Now, it's a possibility that the last frost date may be before that. So, for example, this year, I think our last frost date was maybe in April. And so, what I do is, if it's nearing the time where I know the last frost date is coming, what I'll do is I'll look at the weather forecast. And if it's, let's say it's April 25th, right? It's April 25th. I look on the weather map, right? Or I look on the, I don't even, what is it called? You guys tell me. So I look on a 10-day period of the weather, right? So I look on the 10-day period, and if that 10-day period shows that there's not going to be any frost for 10 days, and let's say it's towards the end of April, what I'm going to do is get my seedlings out there, like my peppers, my tomatoes. I'm going to start getting my warm season crops out there, maybe start getting my watermelon out there, okay? And I'll take that risk. Now, if the weather so happens to change and frost does come and it annihilates my crops, guess what? I always have backup seedlings, right? So I always have backup tomatoes. I always have backup peppers. I always have backup watermelon, just in case when I get those plants out there and, let's say frost does come back, like I said, I already got my backup plan going, and then I can go ahead and plug in more seedlings, and I'm still good to go. Okay, so you always have a backup plan. All right, so study your frost dates. Again, it's not gonna be perfect, but as you get more comfortable with these dates, you're gonna be killing the game. Now, another thing we're gonna talk about is the back of the seeds, right? So the back of the seeds will even tell you when to grow what too. So back of, let's say, crop seeds, okay? So let me try to find an example of that. Boom, here we go. Here's a picture. Let me see if I can open that up. Like we loading up here. Now, on the back of the seeds, they're going to show you, sorry, it's a lot of going on here. All right, back of the seeds. So this zinnia is a flower, I believe. So on the back of the seed, it's going to show you your planting depth. So 1/4 means they're tiny seeds. you can just sprinkle them on top of the surface of the soil, water it, and they'll self plant themselves. Now it says thin two. All right, so thin two, you got 6 inches there. So you want these flowers to be planted every six inches. That'll give it enough room for the roots to spread and mature in the way that it needs to. All right, and it also says sun or shade. Right, that means sunny location or a shaded location. So these flowers would need to be in a sunny area, and then it shows you the height that the flowers will grow to, and that's 2 to 3 feet tall. All right, and then it gives you the days to germination. So basically, it says 5 to 10 days. That means it's going to be 5 to 10 days before you see the seeds start to sprout into seedlings, so little bitty plants. All right. Now, I'm trying to find one with the back that'll show us the grow zones. So let's go down to see if we can find those, because they're going to show you when to plant what. There we go. So for example, if we were growing chives, right? And let's say we're in Illinois, right? Let's say we're in Illinois. It's telling us that you can start planting these seeds in April. All right. Let's say you were down in Tennessee. You can get your chives planted in March. If you were down in Georgia, you can get your plant started in February. And if you're down in Florida, so forth and so on. Okay, so you have so many different sources to show you when to grow what crop, and this should be on the back of mostly any seed that you have. Okay, so seed packet. I'm sorry, that you have. So that's it, guys. Those are kind of the basics of the grow zones. Sorry, I kind of messed up on that the weather forecast. I don't know why I couldn't think of weather forecast, but yeah, you know, when you're thinking about those frost days, keep an eye on the weather forecast, and that'll help you with planting your seeds and when to get your seedlings out into your garden. All right, sorry about that mistake. Again, hope this video helps you guys. Till next time, guys. Signing out. Peace.